All right, so today we're going deep on something uh, pretty different, something you don't hear about every day and might not even know exists.
Yeah, not exactly light dinner conversation.
Definitely not. But that's what we do here. We dive into the deep end. And today we're talking about Ondine's curse.
Which is?
Basically, it's a condition where you can't breathe automatically.
Wow, okay. Can't breathe automatically.
Yeah. Every single breath, you have to consciously think about it. In, out, in, out.
I gotta be honest, even just thinking about that makes me a little anxious.
Right. And the thing is, most of us never even have to think about breathing. It just happens.
It's one of those things you take completely for granted.
Totally. But for folks with Ondine's curse, it's a 24/7 reality. And what makes this deep dive even more unique is, well, our expert today actually lives with Ondine's curse.
That's me. And I'm here to, I guess, pull back the curtain a bit, share what it's actually like to live with this rare condition.
Well, we're so glad to have you. Seriously, I can't even imagine what that must be like. I mean, just to never not be aware of your breathing. So maybe let's just start there. What's a typical day like for you?
Hmm. Well, typical is a funny word when you're constantly thinking about breathing, It's just always there, like this background hum that never quite goes away, even falling asleep.
Oh gosh, I was just thinking about that, falling asleep. Do you have to?
I can't just drift off like most people. It takes a conscious effort to relax, to let go, knowing that I have a ventilator that's going to take over and keep me breathing throughout the night. It's like my trusty sidekick.
Wow. Speaking of sidekicks, this name, Ondine's Curse, it sounds like something straight out of like a fairy tale or something. Where does that come from?
It actually does have kind of mythical origins. Ondine was a water nymph in European folklore, and she cursed her unfaithful husband.
Oh, a scorned woman.
You could say that.
Huh.
And her curse, she made it so he could never breathe automatically again. Every breath he took, he had to think about. A constant reminder of his betrayal.
Okay, that's pretty dark. And a bit ironic considering she's a water nymph.
Right. But it does kind of get at how all-consuming this condition can feel sometimes. Like you said, you just don't get to forget about it.
Right. So obviously it's not actually a curse. What's the real deal? What causes Ondine's curse in the, real world?
It all comes down to the autonomic nervous system. It's basically your body's autopilot. Heart rate, digestion, all those things that just happen without you needing to think about them. Breathing is one of those things. But with Ondine's curse, the signals that tell your body to breathe automatically, they get messed up.
So the autopilot's malfunctioning.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But then how do you manage? What are the treatments like?
Well, for now, it's all about managing the symptoms. Like I said, I have a ventilator I use, especially at night. But there's a lot of promising research happening. Gene therapy is one area that looks hopeful, and other potential treatments are being explored. So it's definitely an exciting time in that regard.
That's amazing to think, one day there might be even better options.
Yeah, that's the hope. I mean, even in my lifetime, the technology and understanding has come a long way. So fingers crossed.
Absolutely. But, even with the technology and all, what about just daily life?
Mhm.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced having to, constantly be aware of your breathing?
Well, simple things that most people don't even think about, things like traveling, they take a whole other level of planning and preparation. You always have to be aware of your surroundings, make sure you have the support you need. And honestly, I think the biggest challenge is actually the mental side of it.
Oh, like what?
The constant awareness, the worry, that can be really draining. It's like this undercurrent of anxiety that can be hard to shake sometimes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine. How do you deal with that? How do you not let it just consume you?
Honestly, it took time. It was a process, learning to accept it, learning to adapt. I definitely have moments, still do sometimes, where I feel overwhelmed. But I found that connecting with other people who understand, finding communities where you feel seen and heard, that makes a huge difference.
Makes you realize you're not alone.
Exactly, you're not alone.
That's so powerful. And it actually reminds me of something else. You've lived with Ondine's curse your whole life, right?
Yeah.
But I read that it can actually develop later in life, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I was born with it, but for some people, it can be acquired later, sometimes after an injury, surgery, or if they develop certain other neurological conditions. It can be a real curveball, that's for sure.
Wow, that's wild to think about. Like one day you're breathing without a second thought, and then
And then everything changes. It really makes you appreciate the resilience of the human spirit, how we can adapt, overcome.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, this has been honestly such an eye-opening conversation. I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm sure our listeners are right there with me.
I hope so. I mean, it's not something you hear about every day, so if even one person listening learns something new or feels a little less alone, then that's a win in my book.
Absolutely. So, to wrap things up, Ondine's Curse, while super rare, it's like this powerful reminder, I think, that people can thrive even in the face of some really huge challenges.
It really is.
It disrupts one of our most basic functions, breathing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't define who you are or what you're capable of.
Could have said it better myself.
And I think that leaves us with a really interesting question. Research is always moving forward, right? So what breakthroughs could be just around the corner when it comes to understanding and treating Ondine's curse? Could we see a world where it's not a lifelong companion, but something that can be, cured or reversed?
That's the dream.
It really is. Something to think about and something we'll keep an eye on for sure. So until our next deep dive,
Stay curious.
and keep breathing, even if you don't have to think about it.
Good one.